We're back in business. Even as US President Barack Obama gets set to touch down in India for the second time during his presidency, the White House is calling this a seminal moment for bilateral ties between India and the United States. The Obama administration is looking to turn the extraordinary potential of the relationship into concrete benefits for these two nations. What could those benefits be? Is this a new dawn in Indo-US relations? I have with me Akshay Mathur from Gateway House. We partnered with them on the business of foreign policy. Akshay, pleasure having you back. I remember the conversation that we had when Prime Minister Modi went to the United States. That's, in a sense, set in process of motion. What's likely to come out of this visit?
Of course, as you know, you've been discussing that this is a symbolic moment for both India and the United States. But I'd like to situate it in two other contexts as well. One is the United States GDP grew by 5% in the last quarter, and so it's an important strategic moment even economically, and there's a resurgent mood in India. So of course it makes it slightly easier for both leaders also to represent their government, their business, and negotiate with confidence and put creativity front and center of some of the disagreements we may have in some of the areas. The second thing, of course, is that some of us, including Gateway House, we've been tracking that 2015 may actually look like a year of the G2, which may not necessarily transcend very well for India, because we may get sidelined on some of the global issues. So G2 means the United States as a resurgent power, and of course China, which is also not has retained its superpower status in a way, and which means global governance decisions may end up being taken by the United States and China. And you're seeing that in some of the areas where, for instance, they have struck a climate change deal before us, and the United States and China are coming together in free trade area of the Asia Pacific. So US and China also have a very important relationship, and they are dictating of what is going on in economics and business. So it is important for India at this time to also now build on the rapport that we have with the United States. And I think the government in Delhi gets that, and the business gets it. So they want to leverage that and make sure that this moment is one in which 2015 does not look like a year where we get sidelined, and we can build on some of the momentum and seal some of the deals.
This is also a time when the terror across the world is at a high, especially in the neighborhood. Does Washington see India as a strategic partner in its war against terror, excluding Pakistan? And secondly, does the United States see India as a counterbalancing force against China?
Well, on the first part, regarding military and defense, you've seen the defense partnership grow. We have bought more than $10 billion worth of defense equipment from the United States over the last decade or so. United States conducts more military exercises with India than any other country in the world. So of course, and then there's a lot of information and intelligence sharing, which is not always in the public domain for all the right reasons. And so, yes, it does see, and they have publicly said that India is a partner in the war against terror, and we also want them to be a partner because we have to fight this together. On the second part, with respect to China, yes, and I think you're seeing the United States play and enact economic statecraft in its absolute best, which means that it is using its foreign policy for economic goals because it wants to show jobs and returns back at home. But it is also using economics for foreign policy, which means it wants India as a strategic partner in Asia. It wants us to be a counterbalancing force, not just to China, but other developments that may happen in Southeast Asia and South China Sea.
Let's talk about the business side of it. We have seen the technology sector that has traditionally sort of forged partnerships and opened markets for America and for India. What are the new areas of cooperation? Prime Minister Modi has very clearly articulated, clean energy as being one focus. Defense, we've opened up FDI. Where do you see, business transacting during this time?
I suppose your reporter was just reporting that clean energy was going to top the agenda, and that's good news because in a way it represents that India and United States are coming together in areas where a developed country and a developing country still, India, can work together. So that's one. Second, clean energy requires technology, and sometimes high technology. So it's good because it's an area where we want also to build our own capability in technology. And third, of course, is environment. We have to be concerned about our own environment, our need for power, and whether we can have more power and energy and not at the expense of environment and pollution. So of course, I mean, this is really good news. And if Vibrant Gujarat is any indication, they have promised, I think, close to $40 billion worth of investments from American corporates. So we'll see how much of that is actually realized. But we'll see. In fact, I believe Sun Edison and Adani Group have come together to announce a solar power project. So again, in energy. So good news in that sense.
But, just one sort of a difficult question, really. Since the Prime Minister's visit to the United States, till now, we made quite a bit of promises. Do you think American companies are seeing that sense of change? Is India walking the talk to make things easier for American companies to operate here?
I think they are, but at the same time, they are going to use structured, they're going to look for evidence in structure and on paper. By that, what I mean is they are still considering and pushing for India to sign the bilateral investment treaty, for instance, because that allows some protection and they know that it is on paper. And once India does sign it, India is known historically to respect such agreements. So that's one. But of course, if Prime Minister Modi's engagement with Japan or his functioning of government and pushing for efficiency is any indication, I think the American corporates have been waiting for a long time and they want to also make sure that they can seize this opportunity and give India a chance in that sense and see if they can work with our companies.
One last question, Akshay, and you're right, this is going to be a symbolically very important affair with the President at Republic Day. Do you expect business to be transacted or this is going to be largely announcements?
I think
there is also a large US CEO delegation.
There is an India-US CEOs meeting that they're having, and I think some of the top CEOs are part of that. So I know for a fact that some of the CEOs will be representing not just their own companies, but they will be representing India and providing some ideas on where we can meet. I think I'm not sure of all the business deals that can be announced because a lot of it is in progress. But I hope, if anything, that that something on nuclear, where NPCA, our own nuclear power corporation, has been in discussions with Westinghouse and GE. If they can announce something that has moved forward, that will be a big breakthrough because they've been working very hard on that deal. And if something comes through, that will be good news.
Akshay, many thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Akshay Mathur from Gateway House. We'll of course keep a close tab of President Obama's visit. We'll get you a 360-degree perspective on what this means for India, foreign policy and of course business. But for now, out of time on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.